fellow academics, students and staff of USP. I'd like to acknowledge also our Professor Kumar, our keynote speaker, for delivering quite an engaging keynote. Obviously, I'm not Charlotte Taylor. She is the lead person for this presentation. However, she is unable to join me today. I'm an educational technologist with the Center for Flexible Learning, and I'm also acting in the instructional design role as of me. The outline of our presentation, which goes around the case study assessing the effective use of online academic resources. And this is very much an exploratory summary of what we have done so far. So our outline basically is to what motivated us, some of the research behind the sample of data that we had to work with, our methodology, and what this breakdown of what this data is, and some of the findings and recommendations that we have. Now I'll take us back to the earlier keynote where Professor Kumar showed us what MIT was all about. What you see on the screen is an image, a portrait done by Laurentius di Voltolina about the university lecture in the 14th century. So we have seen that it's quite similar. The lecture structure there, you can see someone is already sleeping right on the third row, and the interested ones are in the first row, and then you have these students who are engaging with each other, not paying attention at all. So probably something that we can reflect of is where do we fit in? Where does USP fit in these two extremes of where MIT is at and where the 14th century classroom was? So we are moving from predominantly what we've been working on is face-to-face and print mode, and we're more geared towards online because of the strategic plan taking us through 2018. What online has presented for us is basically we have now data to work on. And some of the motivation behind these case studies are our regional students ready for online courses? Are the online resources being developed addressing the different student learning styles, and is it being effectively used? What Moodle data is available, and how can we interpret this data and then feed it back to our course design and development and the delivery of these courses? So our objective is to assess the level of student engagement, and I'll have to apologize if it's not as detailed as we would like, as this course was delivered last semester. So we are very much in our infancy in this study. So the 3 points, or the first 2 points that I'd like to focus is level of access to specific resources and the interaction of students with quizzes, and probably cover a little bit on effectiveness of resources if time permits. So I won't go through the prior research as I understand our time limit, and I do not want to hear that bell sounding. So I will just skip through to what AF102, the sample courses are. If AF102 delivered last semester was a print mode course. It is the second part to Introduction to Accounting and Financial Management, and the first part is actually the prerequisite for AF102. So students needed to complete AF101 first before completing AF102. We had 353 students from across the region, and we thought it was an opportune time to actually put online resources that were developed for students to at least try out. And I've listed the components of this course is the print components, which is the INA booklet, the study guide, and a more interactive satellite tutorials that we have for the normal print. And then we have, on top of all of that, the Moodle course page and all the tools or the resources that were developed for an online scenario with the tutorials, quizzes, key terms, and discussion forums. In the bracket is the tool that we use in Moodle. So this is our student distribution by campus. Two-thirds of the students were Wagala-based, and then we had Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Lotoka, and Tonga actually forming the other majority groups. So I'd like to take us back to how these resources were developed, and it was developed basically for online delivery. Right? When we put it for the spring course, it was voluntary, so nothing was assessed in this engagement of these resources. So it was up to the students how do they engage with these resources and how we could learn from their engagement. In relating learning resources to learning outcomes, I think there was a mention of reading early on, and in Dale's corner of experience, 10% people generally remember 10% of what they read, and we tried to use different mediums to present content in the form of readings, demonstration videos that targeted solving problems, and also lecture videos, and then at the high end stuff, a major assignment towards the end of the course. The learning resources that were developed, the demonstration videos, we used apps. These are Android apps and apps for iPad, Lenso Create and Education, and these are virtual whiteboard screen recording apps with the voiceover that you could use. And I've included the links if you like to see this at a later time. So we had lecture slide videos that Charlotte also developed using a free tool called Screencast Already. And then the self-test quizzes, which was done using Moodle, as well as the tutorials. And the tutorials is a mixture of matching questions, multiple choice questions, and then towards the end there was a demonstration video of the problems that they were supposed to complete. And lastly, the external YouTube demonstration videos that were already available online were also provided to the students. So what we wanted to do was identify what data is captured in Moodle, in the Moodle course. And we looked at the data that is available to the roles, lecturer roles and course designer roles, and how you could analyze the extent of student interaction, mainly focusing on quizzes and lessons. And this is mainly only a quantitative method, as the feedback tool that we try to get some responses from students did not provide the evidence required. So the Moodle course data, this is accessible to each course. So each course has a log that captures every click that a student makes. And then this is a very, actually, what was termed as big data. So there's a lot of data in this log. What you see on the circumference of the logs is the different reports that can actually focus some statistics. And this is what I'll be focusing on for this presentation, on the statistics, the activity report, the quiz reports, and a little bit of on the lesson report. For statistics, it gives you a trend over time of the student posts, student views. So you will get something like this over the semester. These were student posts, and the number of posts, as you can see, it varied across the semester, and there were two significant peaks at the beginning, in the middle, and towards the end of the semester. And the student views also are large, reaching its maximum at 12,000 views towards the end of the semester, and again showing three distinctive peaks. And what these peaks coincide is the start of the semester, just before the mid-semester test, and just before the final exam. So the last minute rush to getting some information for your assessment. The activity report actually shows views in the weekly sections of a Moodle course. So if you structure your course in weekly sections, you will have this report available. And what it shows is the different resources that we have. And the three main ones is tutorial activities, self-test quiz, and study guide. And that's 25%, 23%, and 18% respectively. So the study guide, it's important to note that this was just an e-copy of what um, the print study guide was. So it was presented in the form of a ebook. And you'll see that the lowest one was lecture videos. And this was supposed to be a substitute for the 1 hour lectures that online students would not get. So even though it was not present in every week, it still was one of the lowest accessed items. So this was the trend for the most viewed resources over the weeks. There were 12 units, so the graph actually shows up till week 12. So in the later weeks was actually used for the revision of final exam. And quite large views are at the beginning of the semester, and then it just normalizes to, and you can see that the self-test quiz actually is the most it's the same views towards the end of the week. So students were actually engaging more consistently with the quizzes. So we look at the quiz report and the overall engagement. There were actually 73% had more than one attempt. They had some form of engagement, and 27% did not have any engagement whatsoever. So being that it's also available to the regional students, it's good to know that our students in the region were able to access these quizzes, and because we just used basic tools like lessons and quizzes, the bandwidth was not an issue here. So for engagement by campus, it actually follows the distribution of students by campus, and you can see Cloudala being the heavily engaged one, and follows through with Lotoka and Solomon Islands. So the lesson reports, the difference between the lesson reports and the quiz reports is that I could not take it out of Moodle. You could only see how much a student attempted a question and how many in the class got a particular response. So it's something that lecturers could use to actually monitor where a student struggling with. So it had statistics, but statistics that was only viewable in the browser. So our findings, on average, there were a total of 496 posts weekly, 5,952 views weekly, and our most viewed resources to tutorial, self-test quiz, and unit study guides. And it's always good to keep in mind that this was all voluntary, that they did not require to actually engage in this. And then the last one, which I had already touched on, is that engagement increases prior to, and the average student performance for all quizzes was 74%. There was no limitation on attempts, no time. So students actually worked at their own pace and figured out how they would like to engage. And 61% of students had multiple attempts in quizzes. Our limitations, obviously we didn't get any qualitative data. However, there's one thing that we could not measure was the interaction outside of Moodle. And an important thing to consider is views are clicks. It doesn't necessarily mean that just somebody clicked on it, that they actually engaged completely with that resource. Good practices, designing for better data. So using Moodle for what it was built for, using the basic tools like quizzes and lessons. Not only is it low in bandwidth, if you're just using text, but it also helps in capturing better data. Using deferred feedback, what we found in quizzes is that some attempts were still hanging as in progress or never submitted. So if we use and that was mainly because immediate feedback was used instead of deferred feedback. And aligning constructive alignment is key. Setting up forums for major assessments. That was something that Charlotte introduced at the end of the semester. It was a very engaging forum for students. And then an improvement that we did was a weekly survey for students to give feedback. Short uh, surveys that students could take only 2 to 5 minutes to fill, and it would actually be much more. Well, we hope that they would fill it in the next offer. And creating short video clips, 6 to 10 minutes, that are um, that that are easy to download or viewable on the browser. So this is what next. But reached my time, so you can have a look at the slide and see what we would like to do in our next offer, which is online mode next year. Thank you.
Don't go away. Don't go away. There's time for just one or two quick questions.